But I'm gonna try and kind of hum through this. So first of all, yes, the proverbial thank you so much, Vitamin Shoppe. It's so nice. I think somebody else said this 1,000 times, but it's so nice to be together again.
Yes.
It's so nice to just learn from one another. So I appreciate that. And again, Amanda, Butler Till. We are a media agency in upstate New York, and we have an incredibly unique business culture. We are women-owned. We are employee-owned. We are a B Corp. Danone has left the building, but we are a B Corp, and we are, what else are we? I don't know, we're just cool, independent. Okay, so enough about us. Now to these fabulous women. So, I will start with Jennifer here. Jennifer is an accomplished brand consultant and marketing leader. She has driven multiple programs for Starbucks and Carter's. You passed your enemy on your way here.
I know, children's things.
Yep, she spit at him. And is now leading marketing strategy and growth for New York City's Kleinfeld Bridal. Okay, so I asked them all, what do you think is like a surprising fun fact you want to share? How many of you remember Chuck E. Cheese? She worked at Chuck E. Cheese.
I was Chuck E. Cheese. Let's be clear, I was Chuck E. Cheese.
I was like, let's just stop there. That was
If it's
amazing.
anyone's birthday, I can do the dance on demand later.
We can, wait, hold on, you cue up the video. She didn't bring it, that's fine. Okay, and then, Aleisia is Lippe Taylor's first healthcare managing director. First, I love women that are first. The agency is a top-notch earning marketing firm, and her role is to balance between high science work, brainiac, pharma-focused work, and the need for more consumerized approach, of course. Her other love, fun fact, fishing, building things, woodworking. Ask her how many power tools she has. She's got a real problem there. And Sanya is senior brand manager in partnerships at ŌURA, the makers of ŌURA ring. Anybody have an ŌURA ring? Okay, all right, great.
We all will soon.
Yes. A wearable personalized health tool, which I love that. Sanya has deep experience in solving a ton of complex problems, but the two things that I love aside from that you are massively fearless in representing and supporting South Asian females in the marketing and creative space, so thank you for that. Speaks only 4 languages, and born and raised in Mumbai, India, so I appreciate that. Now, she is offering a free ŌURA ring for anybody that looks closest to Megan Rapinoe.
My kids would be all over.
So if you see anyone that looks a little bit like Megan Rapinoe, then they get a free ŌURA ring. That's what she said.
You get that a lot?
Yeah, I get a lot of things a lot. I get called out a lot. Okay, so let's actually get to the topic at hand here. How the hell do we all stay relevant? I mean, after listening to everything today, it's just really, really difficult. So how do you stay relevant in this massively changing marketplace, and how do you keep up on trends? We started the morning with a trend report, right? Vitamin Shoppe does it, a lot of people do it. How do you just stay on top of trends and what is fad versus trend, especially in our ever-changing industry? Who wants to start it? Oh, see, I could call on people, but...
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start.
Mm-hmm, I thought so.
Is it on? Yeah. So I think what is imperative is that we all start with data and analytics. It's critical that we at least have some numbers to help us point in the right direction of a trend. But I think it's also critical that we don't just be reliant on those numbers, and that we make sure that we're not playing inside cats, meaning we don't go out and wander the streets, learn who our patients, I say patients because I work in pharma, learn who our consumers are firsthand.
I think where I always go is be in the channels. Be where your customer is, be where your consumer is, be where your teams are. Particularly as you grow in your career, your scope gets wider and wider and wider. It's impossible to stay as a subject matter expert in every single channel because they're moving ahead of us. So you've got to trust your teams, you've got to listen to your teams, and participate in the media, even if it's uncomfortable. Guys, I'm on TikTok. When I first joined, I was like, am I too old for TikTok? Am I not cool enough? I'm yes to both, but I'm on. I've had a few viral hits, but I still haven't picked up a career as an influencer or creator. But
I know someone that could probably help you if she's still here.
If anyone wants to help me take off as a TikTok influencer, but you got to be where the consumers are. You have to be in their shoes. You have to be a consumer. That's where you know where the trends are. And I always say, lately, it starts at TikTok. I found podcasts. I learned from it. It's got its great parts. It's got its challenges. But when you find your niche, that alone has helped me stay relevant. I follow a lot of marketers and really cool brands and experts in different spaces. Speaking of woodwork, my husband is now a woodworking expert because he's on TikTok. So I'm just, at the end of the day, just be on the channels, be where the activity is.
Yeah, I echo what Jennifer and Aleisia said. It's so interesting, it being in the health space and at ŌURA, you're constantly trying to figure out what's happening in the health space, right? Like, are people, what's the next Peloton? What's going to be the next Stonal? Where are people working out? What apps are they downloading? And I think the most interesting ideas for us have come when we've looked outside the category, like what's happening in fashion, what's happening in food, what's happening in retail. And we'll talk more about at least my favorite partnership that we've done at ŌURA with Gucci. But it's the unexpectedness and really looking outside the category has helped us. We've been around for 10 years, Finnish company, really growing now in the last few years in the States. And it's been really interesting because we've been supercharged by what brands outside the category have been saying about us. I recently saw ŌURA in a fashion trend report, and I was like, wow, would have never thought of ourselves as a fashion brand. And then you realize actually, wow, people just want, discreet wearables. They don't want to wear, no hate the Apple Watch wearers here, sorry, or Whoop. But people, or Fitbit. I should caveat all our competitors.
I'm waiting for you to take this
Yeah,
off.
exactly. But I think more people just want something discreet, right? Like, I think the idea of wearables being a part of your life and fitting into your outfit, into your day, being able to sleep with it. I think there's so many different form factors and features and stuff that we lean into internally, that looking outside and seeing sort of how our members, we call them members at ŌURA, are interacting with other spaces has been a huge source of inspiration for me.
So Sanya, you and I talked, you just mentioned on your way here that you worked very hard prior to actually coming here because you're in startup world. Do you feel being in a startup environment keeps you more relevant because you're more fearless, you have less constraints, or for anyone that hasn't been in that environment, do you think it's more challenging or less challenging? I just would love your perspective from startup versus, you've got some folks here that have been on brands for a long time, and I think startup world's a bit of a different animal at times.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, the speed, especially when you're in this high growth phase. We're sort of at this phase where, we're still sort of teetering around 12 or 13% brand awareness in the US, so we're not quite where Apple is, but we're growing a lot. I mean, in the last, 2.5 years that I've been at ŌURA, the company's doubled, number of employees have increased. We've grown our US operations from being, Finnish company, we're now a US and Finland company with various other regions. So I think the speed is incredible. I've enjoyed it because there's this attitude of fail fast, learn fast. You fail, but you learn, and everything's a learning mission, whether it's product, whether it's marketing. So I think this sort of challenger spirit that's embedded in a lot of these startup brands is really electrifying. I've worked on some, legacy brands that have been around for a long time, and I think they, are really trying to embrace this challenger mindset. And sometimes it's just you're bound by the processes and the teams and red tape in your organization. So I think startups sometimes have the liberty of just failing, learning, and then being okay, moving on. So I love that about startup life.
I think you bring up a really good point on none of them are easy, but sometimes working for a legacy brand, I mentioned I was with Kleinfeld, been around for 80 years, that can be harder because, my favorite analogy is building a home or renovating a home. You know, when you're a startup, you have your vision, you have your plan, you can get the most state-of-the-art, the fastest, you know, you are creating your vision in many ways. With a legacy brand, it's like that fixer-upper, and you see it on HGTV, and that end result is so rewarding because the structure and the mold is just like, it has a story and a soul, but it is hard. You're grilling on your deck because your kitchen is being remodeled. You know, one room has nice wallpaper, the other room is destroyed. So, you know, I think, and then the HVAC goes out, right? Because it's 30 or 50 years old. So sometimes that can be even harder because you're trying to move like the fighter brands and the challenger brands with an existing infrastructure it's hard, but it can be incredibly rewarding when you break through and you get to the end game.
Awesome. Okay, so I've heard customer data, obviously, right? When you have customer data, being able to understand what moves them, what motivates them. But we've also heard just woman, man on the street, try to get just anecdotal, kind of out in the wild. How do you balance between, and when to balance between going out and aggregating what the data is telling you, but realizing we're a finicky group of people. We pivot quickly at times, right? And then we're so persuaded by social, by influencers, by all these other things. So how, just as marketers, how do you kind of keep up on all these different preferences and changes in consumers? You didn't get...
No, we're sharing.
We're just, okay, we'll pass.
We're all friends.
Okay.
Going out after this.
We are going out. You can come.
Yeah, I think it really is a balance, right? It is a little bit of everything.
You asked me to share.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. You know, if you are going to work in the space of marketing, it is on you 100% to figure out what's going on, who's saying what, how to be relevant to a variety of different people. And I think that comes in on, you know, I work in health and pharma. It comes in advocacy organizations, being keyed into those folks who have the constituents, who know the population. You have to be cued in to the people who are cued in to the people you want to be with. So I think it's a nice mixture. It's fun. It keeps you on your toes. You got to get the data and the science and really understand where you should go, and then you got to go out and talk to people and stay connected.
My favorite saying is, instead of art, you know, there's always the art in science. I always love soul in science, or heart in science, because the data is going to get you that kind of quantitative, maybe that macro story, but the soul and the heart and how your brand impacts consumers and makes their life different, better, however it's, you know, built to serve. That's the heart and the soul of that. And if you don't use that lens, your brand is just, you're going to be challenged to resonate with the audiences.
100%, especially if you're dealing with something like diseases.
Yeah, like big deal.
And yeah, life-changing conditions that affect people's lives and the people around them. So you have to stay keyed in and have relevant content that is resonant for, you know, all your different audiences.
Yeah, and you know, I found that you often learn so much from your MVPs, those like loyal, die-hard advocates of the brand. I mean, ŌURA still probably, you know, we're much smaller, so when you see someone with an ŌURA ring, immediately like my eyes light up, or like, oh, you know, there's this little shared sense of kinship you feel with someone else wearing the product. And I think a lot of our members say that to us, and you know, I think we learn a lot from people who are big brand advocates, who are loyalists. They swear by the product. I mean, it started out as like a ring for biohackers, right? Like a few people using the ring to optimize their sleep, and now there's period tracking in ŌURA rings. So it's sort of like, you know, half the population, every woman that has a period is in our target audience at this point. So I think you can learn a ton from people who love your brand and are not afraid to talk about it and share about it. So I think for us, asking our members, you know, what are the features you want to see, right? What's not working about the product? And spending a lot of time with our product and consumer insights team, I think. So that's really helped influence where partnerships comes in as well, because it's not like, sort of not partnerships for partnership's sake. Let's go find I wish we were a cool fashion brand that we could just do collabs with artists and such, and that would make the headlines. But for us, I think it's been partnerships guided by what members want to see, the types of solutions they want to, they want as part of their lives. So that's been very helpful, I think, for our team.
So talk a little bit, because you're on the partnership path here.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about in the name of the Father, the Son, and the House of Gucci.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm only gonna be allowed to talk about Gucci for another year because it feels like we're under pressure to do one more of those now. Yeah, what's next? Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was an incredible partnership because it just was so unexpected, right, for a wearable. I mean, obviously Apple had partnered with Hermes, and they have this beautiful collection. With the Apple Watch, but for us, I think we were just, we're much smaller than Apple, so not even gonna put us in the same category as far as size goes. But I think it was I like to think of it as an awareness injection. It was simply, it put us on the map in a way where, no amount of media spend with a certain fashion-forward, target audience would get us there. So I think the unexpectedness of a health tracker, sleep ring, if you will, which is sort of commonly how people think of us, showing up with the world's most disruptive brand. You're creating this unique product with a really cool story, with a really edgy creative, is just something that I think changes your perception as a brand. So we got over 1 billion impressions, PR impressions from that campaign. Our site traffic grew 40% or something crazy like that in the weeks after launch, and we were one of the most successful product sellouts for Gucci. So it was very, very interesting to see sort of that whole change. And it was a limited edition product, so we only created a few. And it was, sort of it put us in a different category. So I think we learned a lot from it internally, and there's a lot of promise around partnerships ever since. So yeah, it's a great case study for us.
We didn't even say the word wearables 10 years ago. When we say it as if what it is, it's not part of our language now.
Totally.
But the term wearables wasn't even really a term until the last decade.
No. And I think too, the way, our language is so interesting, especially in marketing. I mean, you've heard authentic, I think 75 times today, but the reality is, I think what worked in that arena is the partnership was so authentic, and it was so driven based on that there's something magical when that happens, which is really hard to science. That is the soul, I think, that you were talking about. Okay, so that was a great campaign. Anybody else want to talk about it? I don't know if I don't want to cut you off, but any other awesome campaigns or initiatives that you're I'm so excited to talk about this?
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So it's, again, I work in pharma and health. So pee is not a bad thing for us. Urine, nothing. All that to say.
You said vagina 3 times also today.
Did?
Yes.
Okay.
That comes up a lot in bridal.
You're welcome, Wiz, wherever you are.
So I'll just talk just quickly about, I think, a unique partnership that we landed upon. There are 2 sides of our business at Lippe Taylor. There's a CPG side, and then there's the pharma side. There's food and beverage and other things in between. But it's uncommon that you can have a product from a CPG side that marries well with a high science pharma product. So there's a product called Gymtessa, and it's for overactive bladder. That's on the pharma side. And there is another client that we have, Thinks, and they make a product for bladder leaks. So we're like, wait a minute, we've got pee on both sides.
I have twin 7-year-olds, so I have the same thing.
We live in the same house. So we thought about it. There's why can't we put this together? Why can't we have a product that's approved for overactive bladder, and then a product that is, designed to catch the leaks, and it's a washable thing, so it's not disposables. So we put the 2 companies together, and they, had a fully integrated partnership with around the campaign launched around travel time. So if you have overactive bladder, like that's like the worst. If you're going on vacation and you're on a plane or you're, traveling, or you're out, at the pyramids, you can't get to a bathroom. So we found a person who is named Holly Robinson. I don't know if anybody knows her. Punch this guy. Yeah. So we found her. She has overactive bladder. She actually was taking Gymtessa, the product, and she did a full campaign with us. And it was wonderful because we had a real patient who liked to travel and had plenty of money to go to see the pyramids. And it was a wonderful partnership. The two clients were thrilled that we kind of saved them some money. So it's just one agency. Yeah, so that's just another partnership I thought was really cool.
I don't know about any of you, but I connected the dots between an overactive bladder travel dynamic with Quip toothbrush. So Quip is all about the travel toothbrush, traveling with an I don't know, there could be something there. I'll get you two connected. This is what happens at these events.
At Carter's, we partnered with Hubbies a lot.
See, things happen here. Okay. So we've got 5 minutes, so I want to do kind of I know, we have 57 more minutes, so here's what we're going to do. We can call it something nice, like what was a challenge in your kind of career that you wish you could kind of go back and change, or we can call it the oh shit moment, but kind of lightning round, when was that time in your brand life, in your marketing life that you were like, oh man, this was a big one?
My last name is Shipe, so that can always be challenging on a phone call. My company's Shipe happens.
Oh, Shipe.
So I had a lot of those Shipe moments. But so when I was at Carter's, as the world was shutting down, what we really saw from a consumer perspective was that moms were missing their showers. They weren't they were terrified of what delivery would be like in this environment. All of these things and this planning just completely disrupted. And so we saw an opportunity to create something for them. And I'm going to get to the Shipe movement. And so we created the world's largest virtual baby shower. And we had an incredible celebrity partner, who I won't name, in sterling reputation. She was our host. Just completely professional. We had a lot of really great celebs. We had winners. We had moms from around the world joining the shower, and some news broke that day of something from her, and we were assured she's on. We had every mom logged into that, and I get the call from my agency. She can't do it. Talk about oh shit. And my CMO was in the middle of going to his cabin in Georgia, so he was like out, so it was on me to figure out what to do. And it actually turned into my favorite story, which was, there is no more supportive group than a team of moms. If you get a group of moms together, they can do anything. And we had one of our other talent get on and say, we are so sorry. The host is unfortunately unable to join. There's something that just, we are so sorry that we weren't able to, but we are going to get back to you. We are going to reschedule. These moms, we love you, we are here for you. And then one mom says, let's take it to Facebook. So they created a Facebook group in the chat. There are hundreds, thousands of chats. They started a Facebook group of the, I think, 300 moms. Almost all of them joined it. And then we used that Facebook group to post videos from the talent, to give updates. They were supporting each other, and they became this thriving community. It's just like the power of, in my career, I was like, I just can't believe this is happening. To the power of how women can band together. And we actually created this little community of moms. I think ultimately, and then when we did reschedule, it was like they all knew each other. They really did know each other. So
They bonded.
Yep. Okay, oh Shipe moment.
Okay. Oh, Shipe.
that's going to be my podcast.
Yeah.
Coming soon. Okay, so I thought long and hard about this. I was like, okay, I found something that was really an Shipe moment. I, again, work in pharma. And back in the day, we used to do rotations with sales teams, right? So we go on a rotation with a sales team, and we've got this bone graft product, right? Bone graft. So part of the rotation was to go into a surgical procedure using the bone graft. I was down for it. I was like, let me see. Yeah, you know where this is going. So what I did, visually, fine. I could watch the blood, I could see all of it. Nobody told me that the smell of cutting bone is like the worst dental appointment. you hear that smell, but it's times like 100. So I'm like, I'm sweating, and I'm not wearing a mask because I'm kind of like outside the door, so I'm okay. And the smell of that, and before I knew it, I was feeling something on the way down. So yeah.
Shipe.
So Shipe. It happened. Yeah, isn't it gross?
Things you never knew were going to happen in your career.
Yeah. I was so down for it.
Okay.
And tough act to follow.
Yeah.
Oh my god, maybe this is the lamest Shipe story. But, sort of a story that dates back to my creative agency days. At the time, it was very popular for creative agencies to take on a pro bono client. Like, you sort of want to do something good, you sort of sign up either like local charity group, nonprofit. So we had the UNICEF come to us for a project, and it was like a typical, everyone's overstaffed, like no one has time to work on this thing. So I was pretty, early on in my career. I think just had gotten a job after a full-time internship. They were like, okay, you could do this. Just go to the UNICEF office, get the brief, figure it out, and just figure it out essentially. So show up to the office, introduce myself. They're like, okay, this is an anti-bullying campaign for Indonesia, and I'm like, oh, okay. Right, this is an interesting brief. So I bring the brief back of, sort of strategy day. So I go back, I'm like, oh, Indonesia, okay. Bring my sort of like Asian culture, cross-cultural insights, try to soup together some interesting brief. But obviously, I'm an intern, right? I was like, gosh, the story does have a happy ending, so that's maybe not totally Shipe, but I found this creative buddy at the agency who was like, hey, look, you gotta, I'll buy you drinks, just work on this with me. And we created this crazy comic contest coming out of this weird brief to educate kids in Indonesia about anti-bullying for the UNICEF. And we created this comic contest where the villain was the silence, because the biggest insight we found is that kids that get bullied don't want to talk about it. So we're like, oh, just create a comic contest. So we created this really creepy looking villain that I drew with this creative buddy, and then we just sold it back to the UNICEF, and no one knew this was a thing until some random trade magazine picked it up, and they were like, oh god, that's the project the intern did. And I'm like, oh god, I am in deep trouble because this is now a thing. But everyone loved it, and people in the schools in Indonesia were very happy. So it was a great project. So bit of an Shipe moment that turned into a good moment.
Good Shipe turnaround. Thank you all. I don't think we have time for questions, but thank you so much. I so appreciate all of you, and thank you for being so fantastic.